FSU's defensive performance against Louisville might be better than you think. I want to start this conversation by talking about blitzing. Essentially, all I mean when I say a team is blitzing is that they're assigning an extra guy to attack the backfield, either to blow up a run before it gets started, or to create extra pressure on a passing quarterback. Blitzing has grown its own reputation in our collective football conscience. Much like mantras that a team should have simply ran the dang ball, blitzing has become a catch-all term to criticize a defensive coordinator which doesn't require much baseline football knowledge to make. The problem is that blitzing isn't really a good or bad strategy in and of itself. It's a tool that can be used in specific circumstances to the defense's advantage. See, the thing about blitzing is on average across all of college football, blitzing results in the same yards per play as not blitzing, but those yards aren't created equal. This aggressiveness means that it's better at stopping the offense on a down-to-down basis, which is reflected in a higher defensive success rate. But when the defense breaks, they tend to give up big yardage, which is seen in the higher explosive play rate. This brings me to the Clemson game, where we can see a narrative around FSU's defense start to form. In the first half of the game, FSU wasn't very aggressive at all, allowing the Tigers to slowly roll down the field a couple of times. In the second half, FSU ramped up the pressure, which completely shut Clemson down. The same story kind of unraveled in the Miami game. While not as pronounced, FSU was less aggressive and less successful in the first half. These two performances led to the idea that FSU quote-unquote makes adjustments, i.e. blitzes, in the second half, and that explains their relative success in the second half. And there's some validity to this claim. They're the 32nd team in the country in terms of yards per play in the first half, but the 5th in the second half. And that corresponds to a moderate increase in blitz rate according to PFF. This leads to the natural question. If FSU is so much more effective in the second half when they happen to blitz more, why don't they blitz more often in the first half? The answer to that question is actually pretty simple. If they can get away with not blitzing, you get games like Louisville. In Louisville, Florida State was able to get away with having two safeties back consistently. I'm going to use that as a shorthand to say they weren't blitzing and they weren't being aggressive towards the run or putting pressure on the quarterback. In the first drive, they allowed their defensive line to eat, with Jared Verse and then Braden Fiske making stops without any help from the secondary. That changed a little bit on third down, where it's a passing situation. They brought a little bit of pressure, but Braden Fiske makes a great play to stop the screen. This domination from the front six expanded throughout the whole game. You can see on this read option, they're doing a kind of gap exchange. Florida State is out-gapped. There's not enough people on the front side of this play. But since Jared Verse takes away the running back in the backfield, he forces a pull by the quarterback. Instead of flowing play side, Tate and Bethune sees this and scrapes along the top to get the quarterback as well. You can also see this in Florida State's ability to stop Louisville in short yardage situations. This defensive line dominance allowed those two safeties to be back, which allows underneath defenders to pin their ears back on short passes. It also allows them to be a little bit more creative in terms of coverages. Here's a match cover 4. It's a play action where Kalen DeLoach is supposed to take a fast 3. So if this running back runs out to the flats quickly, that's his man. You can see Louisville knows this. They try to set a pick attempt, but he does a good job of jumping out there and shutting down any potential passing attempt. Here's another good example where Louisville's running a perfect man beater, mesh. Here, Renardo Green sees the guy go inside. He's able to pass him off and keep his eyes front side to pick up the crosser coming back and close this passing window. These match coverages and the ability to have an extra man back limited Louisville to difficult throws. Mostly, they could only really take deep shots with little space towards the sideline to try to avoid those safeties. When FSU was challenged in the passing game, they excelled, with 22% of the total attempts considered covered by PFF, which was good for the 13th highest rate against a Power 5 team across college football this entire season. This created a positive feedback loop, where the good coverage allowed for more time to generate pressure, which led to 7 sacks. Which is the 7th highest mark by any team against a Power 5 team this season. Now, Louisville didn't lay down lightly. They did a couple of things to try to generate some easy throws. The first is this little motion, which got good leverage for the wide receiver, but Fentrell Cypress did a good job of closing down on this and limiting the passing window. They also tried some things in the run game. Here's this quarterback read with several frontside blockers to try to get an edge. And once they ran that once, they went back to it, using that quarterback action to draw Florida State's eyes and hitting a backside screen. They also got kind of creative with this reverse screen off a jet action. But really the thing that worked best for them was this weak side speed option, where they were able to pin down this linebacker and kind of get the edge. They also had something potentially open up with this goal line wheel, where they're able to get a one-on-one with this tight end on a linebacker, but they weren't able to complete it. The only thing they were able to get in the passing game were some cover 4 beaters, so when they knew that Florida State was going to keep a light box, stay in cover 4, they had a couple of ways to beat it. Here, number 3 is running to the flats, which stretches out this flat defender and allows for the outside receiver to settle in the empty space. Again, this is a similar concept where 3 runs to the flats and the number 2 receiver hits a post in the middle of the field after stretching away that inside linebacker a bit. Unfortunately for the Cardinals, they didn't complete it, but they did go to it again in the goal line. But this time, Tate and Bethune made a great play, being able to get underneath that post and make a great interception. Really, the only way they were able to get anything consistent is when they did win in the running game against the light box. Despite these efforts by Louisville, they really couldn't get anything going. And that shows in yards per play, as this was the 5th best game in terms of yards per play given up to a Power 5 opponent at a whopping 2.7 yards per play. And most of those above them were to historically terrible offenses like Iowa and Michigan State. This is the best game to an opponent in the top 50 offenses in the country according to F+, an advanced analytic that factors in efficiency and strength of opponent. You have to go all the way down to the 29th game before you see another top 50 offense in an Oklahoma State team that got shut down by South Al before they found their identity. And even then, they gave up a whole 22% more yards per play than FSU did versus Louisville. Now, I will say that there was some luck involved in this game. Louisville did drop a few deep balls that would greatly skew the yards per play. But FSU put themselves in a position to be lucky. In 4 different games this year, they held their opponents to under 4 yards per play. 2 of those were against top 50 offenses. The real shame is this defense will never get to truly play again. Jared Verse alone was a major reason you could sit back with 2 safeties. Couple that with whoever else chooses to opt out, and it's just not the same unit. The College Football Playoff Committee can take away their chance for a title, but they can't take away what this defense accomplished on the field. And that's a perfect record and one of the best performances ever by a unit in garnet and gold. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not going to make a preview for the UGA game since it's kind of an exhibition at this point and I don't really know who's playing for either side. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was a good testament to what this defense accomplished. Please like and subscribe and give me any comments adding to this performance in the comments below. Thanks.